once we are talking about finding a life partner, there are three things already we have at the back of our mind. Number one, whoever you get, divorce is not an option. He is a life partner. Only death do you part. That's what Jesus said. It is him who joins us, and he joins us until we are parted by death. If you go to 1 Corinthians chapter 7, verse 39, Paul advises, if you are single or you have lost your husband, you are free to marry anyone. The only condition is that he must be in the Lord. And then in the same verse, he says that a person is committed to their marriage only until death. So once death is the only one that can dissolve your marriage, not divorce. And that therefore means, even when you are talking this subject, a very important subject, because talking to people who are already married and are trying to divorce is too late. The right thing is to talk to single people and tell them entering into marriage is like entering a vehicle where the manufacturer forgot to put a reverse gear. It can only go forwards. And that's very important. However, the second reason, so the first reason why this topic is important is because if you enter into marriage, it's one direction only. Until death do us part. Irrespective of the fact that your partner, your life partner may be unreasonable or have other issues. Number two, please understand that as long as we are human beings, marriage will have difficulties. If your marriage has no difficulty, there's a problem. In fact, I've written a book called Overcoming Marriage Challenges. And in it, I argue that if your marriage has no difficulties, has no differences, there's something wrong with that marriage. Because that means one of you or both of you are too afraid of each other to be open with each other. Once you're open, you know that there are differences. For example, personality differences. They say opposites attract. Quiet people get attracted to talkative people. But the talkative person wants the quiet one to talk more. The quiet one will want the talkative one to talk less. And that's already a difference. And it's not a difference caused by anybody being bad. It's simply personality. It can also be differences caused by background. You are not allowed to marry your sister. So it means whoever you marry will come from another home. And what they did in that home is not what you did in yours. What you are now in the same home. What somebody calls okay, the other one will feel it's not okay. And differences again arise. Or thirdly, the differences come because of gender. Women think differently from men. So you only need to be together for 1 month in marriage to discover the way your wife thinks. It's very strange. You can't see why she thinks like that. And that causes differences. And those differences are not being caused because somebody is bad. It's simply the way God created us. But you also could have differences because of doctrine. But that can be avoided by ensuring that you don't marry somebody just because they say they are Christians. You must understand what are their beliefs, because if you don't, it will become a big problem in marriage. And whereas the first three, personality, background, gender, you can't do anything about it. The fourth one, you can work on it. You know, already what I've said makes you wonder, why should anybody marry if they're going to be in such difficulties? You know, marriage is God's way, he says in Ephesians, is God's way of dealing with loneliness. Once you are married to someone whom you are going to be with for life, he removes out of you loneliness. I heard, and I thought it's a very strange comment from some widows talking. They said, what I miss about my husband is his quarrels. In other words, somebody to talk to, even if it is disagreeing. God says he puts the lonely in families. So the reason we marry is because according to God, being alone is not good. You have a companion for life who loves you unconditionally, hopefully. No, you can't get that kind of a relationship other than in marriage. Every other person you relate with feels like, if I don't like you, I'll drop you. The one in marriage, God forces you to stay together. So you have to find a way of becoming good to each other. Then you need to understand that in marriage, you are respected. And because that respect is communicated to you, you develop self-respect. Yeah, somebody loves me. You start understanding that you are important to someone. Gives you self-respect, which is a very important thing in identity. Once you are clear about your identity and you have a self-respect, you love yourself, it will be easier to deal with others. Marriage gives you a sense of security and confidence. You know, if something happened to you, somebody will be looking for you. Now, and that allows you to take risks and to become great as you move on in life. You know, you need to understand that your marriage is a source of motivation. You are motivated to be what your mate expects of you because of the encouragement and love that envelops you. You want to start a business and you're not even sure. You discuss with your spouse and yeah, you can make it, you can make it. And because you know that even if it fails, both of you will suffer. You know they are serious when they tell you can make it. That will encourage you to enter into areas you would have been reluctant when you are single. You know, when you are married, you have a purpose for life as you learn to give and serve. You have somebody, you are committed to somebody. The moment on the wedding day, somebody is handed over to you to look after. Whether it's a girl to look after the man or the man to look after, you have a reason to work. You have a reason to live. You have a reason. There's somebody you are responsible for in life. And because of that, you live fulfilled as you see those of you in your circle mature and become people of integrity and faith because of your influence. With external struggles, you have secure and stable retreat called home. Somewhere you can run to. Oh, everybody is fighting you. You go home and there is somebody interested in you. So can you see then, despite the fact that I've told you there are challenges in marriage, you have a lot of advantages in getting married. You know, however, if what you are after is a biblical marriage, then there are certain prerequisites that can help you to eliminate wrong choices. Because God has prepared somebody for you, and you need to find that person with God's choice. And you need to look at the scriptures, what the scriptures say, and follow it if you truly want to know God's choice. The first thing you need to understand is that your behavior is determined by your attitude. Your attitude is determined by your belief. So what you believe will influence the kind of marriage you end up in and will influence the kind of person you actually marry. So you need to check your belief system. Is it a biblical belief system? Because biblical beliefs are required if you want a Christian life partner. You know, the first thing we know from the scriptures is some people are called to be single, others are called to marriage. That's a strong belief that if God calls you to singlehood, it's okay. You don't have to get married. So don't get married because all Kikuyus get married. Don't get married because all Luyas get married. When you become a Christian, you are unique. You must check from God. And remember, God is happy with the people who are single and happy with the people who are married. You don't have to get married to be in good books with God. If you believe that God has called you to marriage, the second belief then is that God has a partner for you. It's not partnership. It's not try and error. There is somebody specific God prepared for you. No one can take him or her from you, even with the best efforts. That's a very important belief you need to deal with. I can't go to details because of lack of time. But it's important to know that if God means you to marry a certain girl, even if there is a boy trying to woo her, it will not happen. Because God himself will intervene so that this Christian girl does not end up marrying the wrong person. You know what that then means? You cannot go running around hunting for girls. You cannot go tricking girls to marry them. Why? In the back of your mind, you want God's choice. And if it's God's choice, you need to understand it's like God has put a magnet in you and a magnet in her. You'll be pulled towards each other by God himself. There's no need to hurry and book her. You don't see a beautiful girl and then all of a sudden propose to her, only to discover later she is your cousin. No. You can take your time and not rush, get to know people, because you know they'll be there by the time you want to get married. If it is true that God has prepared somebody for you. So you can enjoy fellowship with the sisters and brothers without wanting to pair up. Because you see, you relax when you know God will certainly show you whom you are marrying. That, if you don't believe that, then every time you see a girl, you'll be wanting to book her. We call it the spirit of hunting. It causes so much trouble in fellowships of your age, in your age bracket. Because what happens is that a peak and drop. By the time the boy has done 4 years of university, they have dropped several girls. What they'll remember of him, even 50 years, I left university almost 50 years ago. What they remember of you is how you broke their heart. That's not a Christian testimony to have. But you end up with that spirit of hunting unless you believe strongly that God has somebody he intends you to marry. Therefore, you don't rush, you don't hunt, you wait on God. And you relate with all sisters as your sisters in the Lord. And sisters relate with brothers without necessarily trying to pick one to marry until it will be time for marriage. God, please understand, God has no girlfriend. Again, that's a very good thing. God through the Bible from Genesis to Revelation, there are no girlfriends. The term girlfriend is a non-Christian terminology. What you can have is a husband or a betrothed man, like happened between Mary and Joseph. But the term girlfriend, no. That way, you fellowship with all sisters and all brothers until you are ready to marry. Why would you want a particular girl, my brother, to be your girlfriend when all sisters are your friends anyway? So until you are ready to marry, you should not be having one girlfriend. All sisters are your friends. All brothers are your friends. Why are you specializing and you are not ready to marry? What about if you are first year and God chose you somebody to marry? Will you marry them? And if you marry them, who will be paying? Who will pay the bills for your family? It needs to be understood that until you are ready to meet your own costs, you cannot ask your parents to finance your marriage. Therefore, don't rush. At the right time, God will give you somebody to marry. And don't have girl boyfriends. Let everybody be your friend until you are ready to get married. In other words, if you tell me you have somebody to marry, you must tell me when you intend to marry them. You can't just have puppy love with the people. When are you getting married? I have no idea. Why were you blocking that girl? Are you aware that if you have a girlfriend and you are in Form 2 and you stay with that girlfriend until you marry him 10 years later, you'll be a very bad husband. Why? You never got opportunity to know women. You think there's something wrong with your wife because you did not get to understand women. God gave you your youth as a time to understand the other gender. But if you start pairing up too early, you lose that opportunity. So don't start pairing up until it is time. You can see your wedding is something in the next 2-3 years you are going to get married. Please understand something, that once you choose Christ, assuming you have chosen Christ, all born again people have chosen to be Christ as their master. If you choose him as your master, you lose all other choices. So all Christians don't do what they choose. They do what God tells them to do. Sometimes in my own life, I've been born again around 60 years. In my own life, sometimes I want to do one thing. Then I realize what the Lord is telling me to do is a different thing. And if I'm truly a Christian, I will drop my way to follow God's way. I'm not allowed to make choices. My question always is, what have you chosen for me? So I want to find God's choice. Whether it is for a job or a career, I want God's choice. Because God knows better than me. He knows the future standing at the beginning. So please understand, by choosing Christ, you lost all other choices, including the choice of a life partner. You actually are interested in knowing who has God chosen for you. The moment you start thinking that some areas you can choose without him, you end up going direction God never called you to. If you go to my book, Finding a Life Partner, I have a chapter on how to discover God's will on issues, not just marriage, but any issue. It's a very important thing if you want to walk with the Lord. You must learn to hear him and follow him. But the critical belief, because I'm still talking about beliefs, is a belief that if you have chosen Christ, from then onwards, the burden of choices have been handed over to the Lord. Your job is to find what his choice is for you. But please understand, I'm not original with this. Genesis 24:14, we have the story of Eliezer on behalf of Isaac going to find a life partner. Verse 14 says, may it be that when I say to a girl, please lay down your jar, that I may have a drink. And she says, drink, and I'll water your camels too. Let her be the one you have chosen for your servant Isaac. By this, I will know that you have shown kindness to my master. Are you understanding the faith of this servant, of Eliezer? That he knew God has a choice of a wife for Isaac. The only trouble is, Isaac is not around. He is the one who has been sent. But he does not want to choose. He wants to find what God has chosen. So he says, if I ask a girl, give me water, let her offer to do an impossible thing. You know, if it's a cup of water, you can do. But if you offer to feed, to give camels water, you don't do it in cups. You do it in drums. Camels take a lot of water. So you would have to be a very foolish girl, unless the Lord has led you, to actually offer to give water to strangers' donkeys and camels. So you need to understand, Eliezer found only the one God had already chosen for Isaac. So he makes sure by the time he is at the well, it is Rebecca coming to the well. That was all ordained by God. So you need to understand what I'm saying. I'm taking it from the scriptures. But please, this is a very important thing to hear. God gives you not a better choice or a worse choice. Don't look at the girl God will give you and start comparing them with anybody else. No. It is similar to those in 1969, is when I was a Form 2. I still remember doing technical work, and I was taught how to do a dovetail joint. In fact, I made a suitcase, a wooden suitcase, without any nails at all. That you are able to do the female and male part of a dovetail joint, and when they fix together, that coffin is, or rather, that suitcase is as strong as if there were nails. But the interesting thing is, you have to make the male and the female parts and put them aside. Then when you are now assembling, you have to there is only one male for a female. So if you pick another one because it looks better, they will not dovetail. For it to dovetail, it must be the female of the male side. And I believe that's the same thing with our marriage. The only person who can fit in your marriage, and you have good marriage, is not a better person or worse person. It's the right person. So your interest is not to God to give you a better choice. your interest is to give you a right choice. Because if there is a right choice, you just dovetail in each other and your marriage will be strong and enjoyable. So please get that in your mind. So don't say, hey, Nganga got a better wife than me. No. The critical thing is right. If you marry a more beautiful girl than me and she's the wrong one, you are in trouble in your marriage. The critical thing is not, don't look for somebody more beautiful. Don't look for somebody more handsome. Look for who is the right person for me. And whatever their pigmentation, if they're the right one, you'll enjoy your marriage. And I can tell you that I've been married for over 46 years. And I can tell you the critical thing is not better or worse. It is choice. Is it the right choice? Now, anyway, I realize I've already have a timer and I've already used more than 20-something minutes. It's already 25 past. So I have just about 25 minutes to finish. I now want to suggest to you that looking at the Bible, that choice which you are saying God has chosen, He has already given us in the Bible. In other words, it is not as complicated as you imagine. It is God has written in His Word something that can direct you towards the right person for you. Step number 1 is to find out, like I said earlier, are you called to singlehood or marriage? If you are called to singlehood, you are the wrong person to be proposing to girls. You are the wrong person to be accepting boys' proposals. Find out. And that's a very important thing to talk about. If you have the right or wrong reason for going to marriage. Again, if you read my book, Finding a Life Partner, I give what are right reasons for marriage or and bad reasons for going to marriage. Please spend a lot of time in prayer trying to understand yourself and to understand what God has called you to. I repeat what I said earlier. Some of us are called to singlehood. And no wonder we become such a problem in marriage because we feel like people have invaded us. You know, if you marry, you have to have the same bedroom. You share the same sheets. And you feel like your partner is intruding on you. You will suffer for years. So if you like being alone, you like spending time without mixing with the people or relating with people at a distance, it means God is not calling you to marriage. And you'll still be satisfied. Today I was speaking in a funeral of a lady who was 79 or 80. Went to university well before me and has remained single up to when she died last week. You need to understand you can live a fulfilled life. As the eulogy was being read today, she traveled the world. She was a scientist who went all over the world. You can live a fulfilled life even as a single person. The only critical thing, has God called you to singlehood? Because if God has called you to marriage and you try to be single, you end up in sexual immorality. You'll not be able to stand temptations. But if He has called you to singlehood, you'll be happy enough alone. So this is the first thing to understand, that God has already demonstrated that it's okay to be single. In fact, He's talking about men. Some of them have chosen to be single. Others have been made single because of operations. They therefore can't get married. But He says others have chosen to be single so they can serve the Lord. That way, Jesus put a rubber stamp on singlehood. It's okay. And anyway, He Himself was over 30 and He never married. So it's important to understand that. That's the first thing in your choice. Instead of going to look for other people, you yourself find out. Should you be doing that? That's the first step. Second step, evaluate. I know I'm called to marriage, but is it now? Don't go with puppy love where you have no idea when you marry. So you must check, is it the right time? If you are ready for the partner before finding one, don't look for a life partner and you yourself are not ready to pair up with a life partner. Have you read Genesis 2:24? For this reason, a man will leave his father and mother and be united to his wife, and they shall become one flesh. What the Bible saying? That check, are you really a man or a boy? Because you see, if you're a boy, you should not get married. And you have to go this second step. In other words, it is true you are called to marriage. But is it now? Are you a man or a boy? Because the Bible has said, for this reason, a man, not a boy, will live and be united to his wife, not to a child. So, let me ask you a question before you can start going to other steps. The first step is to find out, are you physically a mature person? You know, if you're a teenage girl and you get married, you'll get pregnant. But I hear your pelvic bone is not ready to release a baby. In other words, your ovaries can work, you can get pregnant. But when teenagers get pregnant, that pregnancy is called a difficult marriage, and you are actually advised to go to hospital before the due date, because you need to have allowed your pelvic bone to grow so that you are a woman and not a girl. Look, another one to check whether you are ready. Psychological, emotional maturity. You know, you as a boy, you'll find emotional challenge to have a woman who will now be crying and is you to encourage her. Surely, if she is crying and you are crying, who will help the other one? You need to be a man in terms of emotional maturity. Thirdly, are you a man or a boy mentally? Are you able to think through and make decisions on issues without your parents' help? If you still need your parents' supervision, don't get married yet. To get married means you move from your home you have just read and start your own home. Your parents have nothing to do with it. They might be your neighbors, but they are not part of your marriage. What about financial ability? Are you a man financially? Or do you intend to depend on cousins and parents? No. For this reason, a man will live. Why is he big on a man? Because he can live independently. He can have financial independence. Number 5, are you a man socially? In other words, have you reached the age where your parents can respect your marriage? Or are they still seeing you as a child? Can you be released to begin a new family of your own, and you are the head of the family or you are part of that family? All that is what you are saying a man shall live. So before you start asking the Lord to give you a wife, first of all, find out, are you mature as a girl? Not just you can get pregnant. Can you be a mother? Are you ready to be a mother? Are you ready to look after a husband? Those are things that you need to deal with before going to other steps. These are very important steps. Next step, have you prayed about it? Now that if the answer is yes to the previous step, you are mature, then the issue is, have you prayed about it? Let God know your need of a spouse and seek to hear his choice. It's a prayer thing. Remember, if you marry the wrong one, there will be a lot of trouble for you for life. So you need God's intervention. If there's one area you need to hear God's voice, it's on who you marry. I told you what earlier. It's not the guy who is rich. It's not the guy who is handsome. It's not the guy who comes from a wonderful family. Remember, even if you come to a wonderful family, you will not be part of his family. You are going to create a new family. So it's critical. Who is God leading you to? So prayer is the next step. After prayer, I now suggest to you, go through the Bible to find out who is a candidate for marriage. Use a biblical checklist to reduce the circle of potential life partners until you have just a few. You are doing all this in prayer. Imagine drawing a big circle. That is now the human race. Draw a smaller circle inside the bigger one, and that is people of the opposite gender. And they will not be, so not everybody is a candidate for marriage. Homosexuality is not allowed. For this reason, a man will live. and be united, not to another man, but to a woman. It is not Adam and Steve. It's Adam and Eve. So you can see already the circle has reduced. If you're a girl, draw a circle inside for men. No, you are not allowed to be interested in other women. There may be interest, homosexual interest. But just like when you're interested in stealing, you don't steal. If you have homosexual feelings, you don't follow them. Because if you follow them, you'll be sinning. So can you see the list has become less? Let's go to the next step. Now, inside the smaller circle, draw another circle inside. Now very small. Why? You are not allowed to marry people of the opposite gender who are not born again. So if you're a boy, the circle you drew of women, now you draw a smaller one for only Christian girls, only those who are born again. Look at 2 Corinthians 6:14. Do not be yoked together with unbelievers. For what do righteousness and wickedness have in common? Or what fellowship can light have with darkness? I don't know how much clearer that could be. That non-Christians are not candidates for marriage. Just like a cow cannot marry a donkey. They don't even get tempted. Similarly, non-Christians and Christians are from two different worlds. That's why you are drawing a circle, putting out from your selection anybody who is not born again. They may go to church, they may be baptized, they may even be pastors, but have they met the Lord? Is Jesus their master, just like he is your master? And the list is becoming much smaller. So it's not everybody who is a man or a woman. It is those who are born again. And when I say born again, like I'll be saying in a short while, it is not that he has told you. You have to have stayed with the person long enough to not only know he has a testimony, but he is living out that testimony. Because otherwise you will break 1 Corinthians 6:14. Next step. Please understand you have to draw yet a smaller circle. Because only those who can be one in mind, since you will be one flesh. So, out of the small circle of, if you're a boy, of Christian girls, please find out, are they of the same mind? You know, Amos 3:3 says, do two walk together unless they have agreed to do so. In other words, it is not strangers out there. Okay, you inside the circle you put all born-again women. Some in America, some in Kenya. But now it's only sisters, if you're a brother, whom you have talked. Over time, you have seen you think the same way. You believe the same way. You trust God the same way. That takes time. And that's why I told you, as a young person, relate with all sisters. As a young girl, relate with all brothers who are born again. Not in order to marry them, but in order to understand them. And you'll see some of them you agree, some you don't. The scripture is saying two cannot walk unless they are agreed, which means it has put a line out of the people who are born again in the opposite gender. Only draw into the circle people you have talked to and you seem to agree. You know that the circle is becoming very small. So, related with this one is, since you have talked with them for some time, you know whether you have the same stand or no major doctrines. I talked about that. So it is true in the same fellowship. But do they have the same stand on divorce? Do they have the same stand on speaking in tongues? Do they have the same stand on issues of heaven and hell? Do they have the same stand about what the Bible is and why it must be obeyed? Again, it requires quite a lot of walking. That's why you cannot fall in love. Christians never fall in love. Christians walk in love. So you have walked together. By this time, you know the major stands. And the more you are getting to know the person, the more you realize this one, if God was to lead me to him, we can live together. So do not marry to evangelize anybody. Oh, if he gets it, I'll evangelize them. You know, somebody gave us an example as young people, and I've forgotten. If a Christian has gotten saved and been lifted to the table of the Lord. The non-Christian is still on the ground. If they pull each other, even if the Christian is a man and stronger, do you know the girl, weaker physically, will pull him down? That's why it's not an issue you can play around with. Do not marry to evangelize. Are you understanding that whoever you marry will be your pastor? They are the people who know your inner struggles and can encourage you on what the Bible says. Behold the pastor of your church, your spouse, your wife, or your husband is your pastor. So how can you pray? How can you marry a person who can't pastor you? That's why in your relationship, you are looking for somebody spiritually higher. Because you are praying to God, give me a wife who can help me to walk to heaven. So you are looking for somebody spiritual. Don't go for somebody whose salvation you are not sure. Please remember, you are a prince. And princes only marry princesses in God's kingdom. Accept each other as worship models. So don't marry somebody thinking you will change them. If they don't change when you are single, it is next to impossible to change once you are married. They have a marriage certificate. They know they are secure. They will not change. So these things will be helping you to reduce the number of candidates that we are dealing with. Next, as you are talking with a person, find out, do you have congruent vision and mission? You know you are going to have a common future. What has God called them to? If you read my small book on Discover Your Life Mission, I argue you need to understand when you marry, it's your missions that marry. You cannot go to have a date with a girl who intends to go to America with a green card, and you feel called to Saudi Arabia to evangelize the Muslims. Surely your missions are so different. Please, one date is enough. Don't have a second date. So it is in this shortlisting checklist process that allows you to know this person's vision and mission is so similar to mine. We can serve the Lord together. A common future matters more than a similar past. That's a very foundational statement. Even if you come from the same tribe, even if you come from the same campus, even if you led the CU together, that's history. You are looking at the future. What are his plans of the future? I repeat, a common future matters more than a common past. So don't worry, is he of your tribe? Is he of your... That is secondary. The question is his destiny heaven? Is he interested in serving the Lord? That's important. And you'll discover there are not too many people, even inside the CU fellowship. So, just like in Genesis chapter 2, verse 15, the Bible says the man was to look after the garden. So when the wife was created, Eve was created, she was called a helper. So if you have a mission brother, your wife is coming to help you in the mission. If her mission is totally different, how will she help you? Wherever God sends the man, he is actually sending both. Wherever the Lord is sending the woman, he's actually sending both. So that will help you to reduce the number of people you should be including among the people who you can marry. You can see the circle is becoming very enormous. I should have put this one earlier. Are you able to meet physically? Because maybe you can do all those things through Facebook. But marriage is not a spiritual thing. It's a physical thing. In heaven, Jesus told them, there'll be no marriage. We shall be like angels. So you must be able to meet physically. You must be able to accept me physically. So you can't start putting me in the inclusion of the people you are praying about. And you have never seen me. I may be a cripple, that's not a problem. But you need to know that before, that you are marrying a cripple. You know Matthew 22 verse 30 is saying, at the resurrection, people will neither marry nor be given in marriage. They will be like the angels in heaven. So let's be clear. In the circle you are including the people God wants you to marry, he will have made you meet the person you intend to marry. And maybe the person you are going to marry, let's be clear, may not be somebody you have met yet. Like for me, just when I was about to leave campus, is when Rebecca came to the University of Nairobi, because they were ordered by Jomo Kenyatta back to Kenya, and she was a student in Makerere. That's the only way we met. So you need, in this short list, you put, God brought her to me. I normally say, I got a wife by presidential decree, because Jomo Kenyatta issued a decree for all Kenyans to come back to Nairobi. That's how I met her. There's no way we would have married. Since I come from Central, you come from Eastern Province, we had to find a way of meeting. So please understand, as you are reducing this, it's God helping you to know what His choice is. Because His choice, He will bring you to meet them if they are His choice. And you have heard that if His choice for you is somewhere in Russia, He will make Putin order them back in Kenya. God Himself is able to do anything to ensure you meet your future partner. Next, this is where the test really is. Even if all the other things have happened, please understand, Ephesians chapter 5 says, husbands, love your wife. So, now the circle is very small. There are very few inside your circle. There are very few sisters, my brother. But not all of them you are comfortable with in terms of loving them. Love is a very strong word. When I say love, it's not lust. It is somebody you will get concerned about. You will have the desire for her best, and you feel committed to help her realize it. If you're after somebody to meet your needs, that's called lust. Love you will know whether you love someone by your desire for their good. In other words, even if they don't marry me, I really desire their good. That person is unlikely to be several. Your circle has really gotten small. But still, you might not be sure. There might still be 3-4 people inside your circle. Maybe you test this love. And I suggest several things, because this is a very important part of reducing the circle. Are you understanding that what you are talking about is agape love? Not friendship love, not romantic love. You need to understand somebody you are interested in, not for something you get out of him, but because God has dropped a love for her or them. So far there may be several, but you have an interest in their welfare. Ask a different question. That particular person, do you have enough love to surmount any barrier you might discover when you propose? You might discover that the person you are marrying already has been told the ovaries are not there. But there is so much love that you know, even if she had to be barren, I know God has led me to this one. I have a love for her, whether barren or not barren, whether deformed or not, because some of the deformities are not visible on the outside. If you actually have that kind of love, your marriage will last. You know, maybe you have different educational or cultural background. Do you have enough love to go over it? Like you are marrying outside your tribe. Your own clan will be opposed. They may even not attend your wedding. But you have so much love for this person, you are ready to go on with the wedding, even if your clan has refused. Maybe they are not as educated as you. That will create a problem. Remember, all the things I'm listing are things to test your love. That means they are not easy. If you get married and there is a big difference in education, it will create a problem. But do you have enough love to cover that problem? Or might you be mistaking sympathy for love? Oh, that girl, nobody can marry her. Let me marry. No. That's not love. Love is not sympathy. If sympathy, please help them. Do not marry them. Help them from afar. If it is marriage, there must be true love. Do not assume, by the way, that he is going to change. All these things I'm saying, you need to know they are likely to become worse in marriage. She wants to marry you, and yet she's unable to stop quarreling. Now, please understand, when you marry her, she will quarrel more. She wants to marry you, but she always comes late. Please understand, after marriage, she will come even later. So you must have enough love to cover those weaknesses. These are very important things, because the Bible is commanding husbands, love your wives. So the test is, will you keep to that verse? And you are checking before marriage whether you have that kind of love. And it comes from God, has given you that kind of love for the boy or for the girl. That is a big test. But the bigger test is this one. Does the person have love for you also? Because you love people and they don't love you. You go proposing your God, she say, me and you, where would we be going? I have no interest in you. So that's why it needs to be understood that if somebody does not love you, please don't persuade them. Because it's supposed to be a test. So if they don't love you back, it means the Lord has not dropped love in them. If you start philosophizing and almost telling them, God will curse you for refusing me. No. You don't want to marry somebody whom the Lord has not shown that you are the right person. Because it's a test. If it is God, nobody will persuade the other. You love each other. It is a tough test. Since many we love do not love back. And yet if it is of God, if it's really this is God's choice for you, there will be love in the other person. The magnets have been dropped by God in both of your hearts. So you see yourself coming to each other. By the time you are proposing, the sister says, why has it taken you so long? Because she has been praying. She has been following her checklist. And you are the right person in that checklist. Next, do you hear God's voice on this matter? You have used that checklist, but finally, like I told at the beginning, do you hear God's voice? Do you feel a conviction that this is the person to marry? Maybe you saw a dream or a vision or feelings or parental advice or pastoral advice. All those things are possible. However, your advisor or your dream or the voice you heard must finally be checked against what you hear. Don't marry people because somebody told you. What do you hear yourself? God telling you about who to marry. Unfortunately, I've run out of time, and I would have wanted, maybe you read the book, test if the voice you hear is of the Lord. Don't say, but God, if she is the right one, let her come in a red dress tomorrow. That's not enough test. Then, once you know that the person God has led you to, don't propose. Have friendship before proposing. Do not propose prematurely. Allow friendship to develop on its own. Don't marry a stranger. Because you see, this is part of the test. As you are befriending, we call that going steady. You have been relating with many girls, but there's one you feel you want to check. You have been relating with many boys, there's one you want to check. But there's no commitment that far. You're just enjoying each other's company. So please allow the friendship to develop from an acquaintance all the way towards marriage. Be active in Christian fellowship, and will make you become friends with the people in the CU without necessarily pairing up. Common friends in your group of friends, people you feel free to share weaknesses with, and people you can count on. These are the people there. So whoever you feel God has led you to, you go steady. That way you are narrowing down to mutual interest. Somebody, when you say, can I take you for tea? She doesn't say, why? Not me. No, she is ready to spend a bit of time with you. And still you are not proposing because you are still listening to God's voice. Then finally, after going steady for a period of time, you can make a proposal. I do not advise anybody to propose to a girl whom they have not had a steady relationship for more than a year. That way you are allowed to see her in winter and in summer. In days when she has money, in days she has no money. In days when she's annoyed with you, that needs to be, I would recommend not less than a year before you can propose. And once you propose and she says yes, let a few friends know. We call that an engagement. And you see, by that time you have made a commitment, just like Joseph and Mary. You cannot change that easily. But it's still better a broken engagement than a broken marriage. But engagement is not a time to find if you are marrying her. It is how shall we fit into each other. And that's very important. Then finally, you must arrange for a wedding. Wedding is not optional. Going to the registrar of marriage is not for a Christian. Because the Bible says, let what God has joined together. Not what the government has joined together. Not what the clan, I paid dowry. No. He says, God has joined together. And surely the clansman does not represent God. The registrar of marriages, who represents God? A pastor. So don't have sex with a girl before the pastor, on behalf of God, declares you man and woman.